SNL from this weekend is over, but we're just getting started. We're talking about Andrew Garfield hosting SNL on Saturday Night Live, live on post-show recaps. And now here are the two guys who have their STANX on ready, so we have no interruptions here today. Here's Rob Cesternino and Rich Tackenberg. Rich, how you doing, buddy?
Good, good. Love a fun lunchtime episode of SNL Recap.
Yes, and the lunchtime episode is when you would most need to be wearing your STANX, probably, right?
Yeah, can a bitch get a beef bowl over here? I got my stank on.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about here on a SNL, which is turned into a controversial episode. Oh no, hold the phone.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So we are going to be talking about everything from Andrew Garfield. Of course, we have people watching us here live on postshowrecaps.com. Hello to you guys as well. We also have our Twitter open. You could use the hashtag PSRecaps or also post your comments on our YouTube channel at postshowrecaps.com/YouTube. And of course, we'd love to get your thoughts. Even after the episode, you can post your comments on postshowrecaps.com. All right, Rich, first off, how you doing today? Happy May.
Thank you, thank you. Almost Cinco de Mayo, right? Or
I believe it is almost
Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, this is a party. It's a party, yeah.
It's a party, so we were talking about Andrew Garfield hosting Saturday Night Live. So, Rich, what's your big picture on the return of SNL this month for the first of 3 episodes to close out the season?
I thought it was a better episode than many of the other return episodes, but I have a very strong feeling that the cast was not thrilled with this episode. So, some interesting highs, some interesting lows. I liked Andrew Garfield. I liked the writing for the most part of this week. I thought it was overall pretty solid stuff. Nothing for the record books, but pretty good. But I think we'll see better next week.
Now, why do you say that you think the cast might not have been happy with this episode?
You know I'm very focused on the Goodnights. You know I watch the Goodnights over and over again. I read into them. I watch body language. I bring in like the jury selection team from from one of those shows like The Good Wife to analyze everything. There was a lot of moping around at the end. There was a lot of this from the cast members going on. Bobby Moynihan was back against a column for the beginning of the thing. Like, there wasn't a lot of hoorahs and jumping up and down this week.
Well, who is that on? Why do you feel like they would be not happy with this? Is there some sort of a war boiling to the surface between the writers and the performers?
Or between one camp of performers and another camp of performers? I don't know. I thought this was definitely a good enough episode, and it didn't seem like there was weirdness with Andrew Garfield, so it didn't seem like there was a host thing going on, so I don't know.
Rich, this is very interesting, and again, this is pure speculation and hyperbole and totally just off of body language, but are you saying that you think there could be some sort of a schism in the Colin Jost era of being the head writer of SNL?
Well, I mean, he's been a head writer for a bit now, but it's in the absence of Seth Meyers and Jost becoming kind of senior guy. Yeah, I think there could be a kind of new guard feel, the old guard getting pushed aside a little bit. Never wonder.
Wow, this is like Game of Thrones.
I love it.
Okay.
Love it. Yeah.
Right, so we'll look for more clues that may or may not support this as we go along here and all month long
Yes.
covering SNL. All right, let's get into the first sketch, which I would like to call the obligatory Donald Sterling press conference.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there was no question this wasn't how they were opening the show. It was great for me to see my man Bobby M, sort of anchor a cold open that hasn't happened in a long time. I think that for the most part, we saw exactly what we all thought we would see for a sketch like this. So, it was okay. It was good. Some funny moments. What did you think?
Yeah, I felt like there wasn't a lot of humor here. It felt like they sort of just, again, obligatory needed to pay lip service to talking about this. But I didn't feel like they had a great take on this, the press conference of this. I feel like even the Rob Ford, Bobby Moynihan cold open, it's been almost like a trifecta between Donald Sterling, Rob Ford, and Chris Christie. I feel like 3 times we've seen Bobby Moynihan do a cold open with this sort of thing, right?
Yeah, and I think probably this one probably the weakest just because there was less performance to this. And we've talked about this a little bit before. I bring it up again. For me, there's always a weird line between writing jokes that are making fun of a racist and using a racist in the news to make racist jokes on TV. And I don't think there was anything hugely offensive about this, but a lot of the jokes that Donald Sterling was making kind of felt just like racist jokes, and we're sort of putting it under the banner of, yeah, but this guy's saying it, and he's racist, so it's okay to say it. So I don't know that I feel passionately about that, but I feel like this really sort of walks the line.
No, I agree with you, Rich, because we'll talk about the whole Leslie Jones controversy much later in the show, but I had more of an issue with Bobby Moynihan as Donald Sterling making offensive remarks than Leslie Jones saying anything that was potentially offensive.
I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, I will say, my favorite moment was during the Dennis Rodman bit when he goes to touch Sterling, and Sterling just sort of, slides his arm away. Because that was clear. I mean, it was excellent on every level, but it was clearly making fun of Donald Sterling, not an excuse to say, hey, look at a racist guy. I felt like that was a really good piece. So that I liked, but for the most part, And then, you'll hardly ever hear me say this, but boy, Keenan saved this thing. His was Leon Jenkins, the outgoing head of the NAACP. Just him going, look, come on, look. That could have gone on for another minute and a half. That just made me laugh. Great job.
I agree. Those were the two high points in that sketch. Those were the two of the things that I had written down from this sketch was when Rodman came on and he tried to touch him, and then the on from Keenan. So it saved it. I felt like the Bobby Moynihan stuff wasn't really going anywhere, but good idea to sort of mix it up. So then we get
just one quick thing to say, because I love this stuff. It's so silly. Shashir Zameda, probably the first time she's had some role of note, speaking role in the cold open, which is fine, but it was her first time getting to yell live from New York, which I was really happy about, even to the point where Bobby Moynihan was pointing to her after they all yelled it together. So, I love that stuff.
Okay, so we open the show, and now we get to our monologue, and we get our co-hosts, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone.
Was anybody surprised to see Emma Stone here? Was this a shocker to anybody?
I kind of felt like to have Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone there for SNL on the weekend that Spider-Man was opening, I kind of felt like, didn't these two have anything better to be doing this week? Because isn't that atypical to have the big movie star of a big movie that's coming out host SNL the actual week the movie is coming out? Isn't it more often than next week or in 2 weeks, or they have a movie that's out? So is that more the exception than the rule? Am I off on this?
You know what? I would be just pulling this out of my butt, so I'll leave it to maybe the chat room. I don't feel like that's an odd thing, though. I think that a lot of it is just the timing of when people are available and movies are opening. We've got Charlize Theron next week, which she's got a movie opening. So I don't know. It's a good question.
Because wouldn't you think Andrew Garfield had a lot of other media commitments on the week leading up to Spider-Man releasing?
Well, I have to imagine that the good folks at Spider-Man Sony, I don't even know anymore.
I think so.
I think Sony probably pushed for this and wanted this to happen. I mean, for the Spider-Man demo, I don't know what Andrew Garfield could have been doing that would have been better publicity than Saturday Night Live. I mean, that's right in their sweet spot. So I even assume, I don't know anything, I assume that they set up Emma Stone and convinced her to go down. Maybe she wanted to separately, but I would imagine that they made the big push for this weekend.
Yeah, I got the sense that she wanted to be there. I feel like that she wants to be thought of as one of the really funny SNL hosts. So I kind of felt like that she was sort of horning in on his SNL.
Yeah, but I think that he could use it. I think it definitely helped him as well. So I thought it was win-win. Clearly not a particularly funny monologue, nothing memorable, but I think definitely helped by her appearance.
Yeah, so we got the fact that he is British. We also got the fact that Andrew Garfield wears a crazy suit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that the band laughs at anything.
And that A.D. Bryant is in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in a huge meaty role.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
careful there, Rich.
Sorry. Oh.
So, um, so for Baby 80, are you pumped up to? Is this her big screen debut?
I think this is big for her. Yeah, this is big time. She's really stepping up.
Congratulations to 80 Bryant as the Statue of Liberty in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
So anything else from the monologue?
No, my favorite moment was her like hanging out in the background and not really leaving. I always like those kind of moments, but yeah, I thought it was kind of forgettable. Fine, good open, and we're off to the races.
I thought one funny joke from the monologue was when she said, "Well, you need to be self-deprecating," and Andrew Garfield blurted out, "I'm a terrible father." And she's like, "Well, you don't have kids." And oh, okay.
Yeah, yes, that was good. Yeah.
I thought that was a one funny thing that he said. All right, so then we go to a commercial, and we get a commercial here for STANX, Rich.
Yeah, I just feel like this sketch has been written in every intro to sketch writing class in every comedy school across the country. Who hasn't thought of a version of this or some kind of deodorant underpants for farting? So, execution was kind of decent. I thought some of the visuals were good. I think when Beck Bennett sort of raised up in his seat because he was farting, that kind of made me laugh. But kind of generally forgettable, silly, not unfunny, but I didn't feel like it wasn't something that we has this idea has been pitched in every writing room, including third grade lunchrooms.
Yeah, I just watch stuff like this. Say, you're better than this, guys. You're better. You're supposed to be the best in the world at this. This is what we're doing. We're doing STANX inflatable underwear.
Well, and just as telling is that not only did we do STANX, we put it after the monologue, even when we've got the the Beyonce thing coming up. So either they had a preteen audience at the dress rehearsal, or Saturday Night Live had a weird sense of priorities this week that they thought, of all the things we got, this is it. This is the big heavy hitting piece, which I was surprised by.
I will say the one thing that saved it a little bit for me was just the nuclear explosion at the end, that they went to that degree with the effects to do that, basically the force coming out in every direction. I mean, I felt like that saved it to me. At least they went that big, but still.
Yes, yeah, and the premise of that doesn't even make sense. It's actually bad commercial parody. If there was a fictitious STANX, they wouldn't end in exploding. There would be something much more clever than that. But given that that's what they chose to do, I liked the level that they went to of pulling that off. So, and short, good, good energy. Beck Bennett did a good job. So overall, good.
Okay, so yeah. Rich, we come back for our first sketch after the monologue. And I was very excited to see a return of Family Feud Celebrity Edition, that I'm thinking that this could be the new Celebrity Jeopardy.
I think so. I think this is a it's the perfect format where you get in 8 impressions. You get I gotta say, the Steve, when Keenan would do the Steve Harvey show, it would put me to sleep. I was so bored by that. But him doing Steve Harvey as the host of Family Feud kills me every time. Very good. It's what Keenan does well. The writers write so well for him. And then we just do a lot of quick gags with a couple of people. Everyone gets to do a quick impression. Solid. I think we'll be seeing a lot more of Celebrity Family Feud.
Now, compare this to the Celebrity Family Feud we did on the Jimmy Fallon episode, which I think was the last one before Christmas.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was really all about Jimmy, Justin Timberlake as Jimmy Fallon, which really kind of hijacked the whole show. I'd say probably the impressions were about on par. The writing was pretty much on par. I think Andrew Garfield here, I think, did a good job, but a very, for me, unmemorable job in this particular sketch. I thought he had down a lot of the mannerisms that you could check off on a sheet of paper, but at no time did I actually think I was watching Justin Timberlake. And yet, last time when we watched Jimmy Fallon, Justin Timberlake as Jimmy Fallon, I thought the same thing. I didn't think it was particularly good. It was just fun to watch.
Okay, so Andrew Garfield does Justin Timberlake, and I just found myself very distracted through the whole sketch of, is Justin Timberlake cool with this?
Oh,
and
I was going, yeah, so go ahead.
And it felt like almost like a betrayal to Justin Timberlake to not have him there and to do an impression of him.
Yes, I was surprised. When they set that up and they hit it so hard right around when they do the first, the two of them coming to the table, and they really kind of hit it hard. I thought, oh, I really wonder, is Justin going to do a drive-by here? Is he going to pop in, which would be odd given who's hosting at the end of the month? So, and obviously he didn't. So yeah, so surprised. But I think Justin can take a joke. I don't think Justin's going to be too upset by this impression. I don't think it was anything below the belt.
And I think he can take the joke, but it just was off-putting to me because what was so memorable about the last time they did this sketch was you had Justin Timberlake and Jimmy Fallon, and Justin Timberlake as Jimmy Fallon. And so to bring a Justin Timberlake impression into Celebrity Family Feud and not have it done by Jimmy Fallon, I felt like this was very... I just had this other story going on in my head that was a little bit distracting.
Totally. Very much agree. And it would have been okay if it was a great impression. I unfortunately didn't think it was a good enough impression that they ever sort of got past that.
What about some of the other impressions that we saw? We had a Noel Wells Reba McEntire.
I guess it was good. I don't know. I mean, I liked Steve Harvey's comment about, it's the white people's Wayans Brothers show, but I didn't think the impression itself was that good. Yeah, I mean, good Skrillex? I don't know. I have no idea. The Adele was fun. It was nice to see A.D. Bryant doing an impression where it's not her in a silent montage, in a pre-tape piece where she actually got to speak. I like that they basically just created this weird character for her. That was, for her, that was funny. And I loved Kate McKinnon as Shakira. I could watch that a lot. I thought that was very funny. It just again, it's more energy than accurate, but I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I like the sexual chemistry between Steve Harvey and Adele.
Yes, that was very funny. What did you think of Taron Killam as Russell Crowe?
I didn't really get it, but whatever. I didn't really have an issue with it. I thought it was he was committed to it. It was good enough for me.
Yeah. That's why I was like, okay, yeah, seems like it was good. Some funny jokes at his expense, so it was okay.
What'd you think of Jay Farrow as Drake?
Good. I like that we knocked two former guest hosts in one shot. So
well, no, we had three.
JT. Oh wait, who am I missing?
Bruno Mars.
Oh right.
Who was played by Nassim Pedrad.
Yeah, was that even an impression, or that was just like, hey, look, I kind of look like this guy, kinda?
I don't know. I feel like it was a little mean to Bruno Mars.
Yeah, I did like, what was Steve Harvey's line? I want to pick you up and present you like the Lion King style. That made me laugh. That was funny.
Yeah, that was funny. So I felt like overall I did not enjoy this as much as the first one, but I was excited they did it again.
Yeah, and I'm still enjoying the Steve Harvey. Everything from, when they said something about Drake being from Canada, and he's like, we all just know that Canada is French for Chicago. That was very funny. And the Shakira stuff was funny. Shakira being bored by the JT Steve Harvey hug, I thought was a great piece of background action. I thought that was very funny. So, good stuff.
All right, so let's talk about Oliver Twist here. And, Rich... we have a John Milheiser sighting.
Yes, we do. So
he had a line. He had a line also.
Here's my first question for everybody: is when the title card comes up and says Oliver Twist, who thought this was going to be a good sketch? Who didn't see Oliver Twist and everyone goes, do I need another drink? Do I need another beverage? I love the idea of this sketch, and I love the commitment that Cecily had to this sketch, but this was a toughie. This was a real toughie.
Have we ever seen the Deidre character before?
I don't think so. Not that it comes to mind. No, I don't think so. I liked everything about the character. I thought it was a great character. I think we'll see her again. I think trying to put her in Oliver Twist was just so hard to make that work. But I bet we see her again.
Okay. Well, do you think we're gonna see her again? Because I did not seem like this was a particularly popular sketch.
Oh, I agree that it wasn't particularly good, but I think that sometimes they'll see a character that's got a strong point of view, a strong game. They'll go, okay, now we have a better sense of how to write for her. I feel like some of Kristen Wiig's bigger characters didn't always start out particularly strong. Not that I can pull one to, but I bet we see her again. I don't think, and I think Cecily Strong's got a lot of credit in the SNL bank right now, so wouldn't be surprised if we see a reboot next year of this character. Just kind of completely rethunk.
Yeah, I thought that this one, had a little bit of potential, and then here comes Deidre, and I was like, okay, let's see where this goes, but it just really went nowhere.
No, really went nowhere. I mean, if Cecily Strong wasn't anchoring right now, I would say expect to see Deidre show up on Weekend Update, the same way that Jacob the Bar Mitzvah Boy was moved from kind of a nothing sketch into a slot like that, because it is an interesting character. Felt very well-rounded, felt like it had a lot of different sides to her. So I bet we see her again, but this was not great TV. No.
Yeah, and I was all like, can I please not have some more?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, but we go from our low lows to very high highs here, Rich, and let's talk about the movie trailer for the movie The BEYGENCY.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I would say, I don't think anyone would argue the sketch of the night. I mean, this was definitely the sketch I saw on Twitter, written by Chris Kelly and Sarah Schneider, two of the younger writers who have been doing a lot of really good stuff. I thought this was really good, but I'll preempt, I'll let you talk a little first and say, I guarantee I didn't love it as much as most people. I liked it. I definitely did not love it.
Yeah, I really, really liked this. I would say my one criticism was I felt like it was a weak ending to it. Where
Right.
I felt like that you needed some sort of like big ending, and then just being locked up with Kate McKinnon, who didn't dance to Crazy in Love at a wedding in 2004. I didn't think that was the big ending that this did. But Rich, I think you got to be happy here with a cameo from
Yes.
Jack from Kiefer Sutherland and Mary Lynn Rushko.
Rescue.
Yeah, so Jack and Chloe show up, and they weren't even in the monologue.
I was so happy. Because if we had seen these two before, that cameo flatlines. Nothing. Who cares? Them showing up out of nowhere and then doing a little to the left, dead, gone. We don't see them again the rest of the show. That's how you do it. That's how you do a cameo. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I thought this was very, very good. It seemed very inspired. I'm not sure where this idea came from that you're not allowed to say anything bad about Beyonce, but it was just, I felt like this was very fresh and fun, and especially compared to STANX earlier in the night. This was a very good use of the pre-tape.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, and again, I'm going to be oddly nitpicky here, even though I really like this a lot. I didn't love it because there was a weird disconnect for me between the idea of, oh, you're not allowed to say anything against Beyonce, and then this weird kind of agency, weird thriller. Like, there was something about it that 2 + 2 = 3 and not 4. It didn't quite connect. There was a lot of points where I just felt like, oh, we're mapping these two things together, but I don't quite know where we're going with it. And I think the ending really showed that. So I don't want to say I'm knocking it because I thought it was definitely good, but I think that this definitely needed another pass in the writing to make it like a really memorable piece. And I think that as much as we all like this, I would expect that in probably, by September of next year, none of us will remember this bit.
Ooh.
That's all I'm saying. And I didn't like the name either. The name was a good visual, but it didn't quite work for me. So, all right, what are you going to do?
Real B Glow says, is The BEYGENCY a top 5 sketch for this season? And Rich, Bobby was amazing in it. Scene stealer for sure.
Now you're talking my language. Yes, Bobby again brings it with the shotgun. Very good. Top 5 of the season, I'm going to say no, but if other people did consider it top 5, I respect that. I could see why someone might.
Real quick here, just because we're talking about a pre-taped piece. Rich, did you happen to catch any of the SNL, they called it shorts, but basically it was like a 2-hour special of all pre-taped pieces from the, going on 40-year history of SNL?
I'm bummed I have it on the TiVo. I still haven't watched it yet. It was made for me. I knew it might come up today, and I just with other stuff I didn't get a chance to see it.
No, just very interesting that there was a number of Kyle Mooney pre-tapes from this season, which was shocking to me in the, where we're doing the all-time greatest things from the show. And including, and I only got like an hour and 20 minutes through it, that we had where he was the one that we actually liked, which was the in the apartment where it was sort of like he was trying to go on a date with Vanessa Bayer.
Yes.
But there was that one, and then there was also the one where he's running for school president and talking about like all the reasons why you should vote for him for school president. I was very surprised to see that make the cut here of the all-time greatest pre-tape pieces on Saturday Night Live.
Ooh, that is a weird one. I mean, obviously these primetime specials are as much, rating getters as they are marketing for the show. So of course we're going to see current stuff, even if it's not the best of the best, because they want to market the current cast. But I'm surprised they'd go with that. I feel like we've had much stronger pieces. That's a real odd one.
It seemed like a real vote of confidence for Kyle Mooney, yet no Kyle Mooney short this week.
Yes, and actually it was cut. They on Twitter, both Kyle Mooney and the SNL official Twitter feed had a link to the. It was called Wing, and it was a Good Neighbor, short that they said got cut for time. Even though at the end they ran Bird Bible, which was a repeat, which was maybe a minute shorter, but I don't know. It seemed kind of odd. It was, if you want, it's on Hulu and NBC.com. Not worth watching.
Oh!
Little spoiler alert. Don't spoil your Tuesday by going back and watching it. It was not very good in my opinion.
Okay, well, let's get into the musical guest, and let's bring in our musical correspondent, James Keast from Exclaim magazine, to tell us about how Coldplay did as they got consciously recoupled with Saturday Night Live. And so we'll go ahead and bring James in. James, how are you doing today? Oh, you remuted. Okay, there you go.
Now, yes, hello.
Yes, James.
Hello.
All right, hello. I'm sorry, I was still going over all the things that I can't say about Drunken Love during the segment, so I just want to make sure that I'm safe. I had to lock the doors, but I think I'm okay. I haven't seen any strange men in fedoras following me, and Kiefer Sutherland hasn't been seen in Canada in 25 years, so I feel like I'm okay.
Okay.
At least for now.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is fantastic news to hear, and let's get into it. Tell us about Coldplay.
I was sure that they were going to have a band on this week, but instead they seem to have a commercial for a lifestyle brand called Coldplay. It's not exactly like a band. It's sort of similar to a band, but more of like a room fragrance that you could spray. It was sort of like essence of Coldplay. It had all of the signifiers that you might look for in a Coldplay performance. It sounded like all of the Coldplay elements. I'm not entirely sure that there was a song there. It was sort of like a series of, like, you had a Coldplay soundboard and you could just add, somewhat catchy keyboards, weird compressed drum sounds, and the sort of mellow vibe that Chris Martin gives off. It feels like a scented candle called Coldplay that Goop might sell. Although I think the line has been discontinued. When I looked on the Goop website, the Coldplay scented candle was no longer available.
Oh no. So, now are you normally a Coldplay fan, James?
I liked them the last time they had a relevant musical moment, which was in 2002. which was their second album, A Rush of Blood to the Head, was really good. And ever since, they have been a weird sort of pretend Coldplay band. I'm really, and especially this first song, it's called Magic. The way that Chris Martin sings this as if he's singing it in a weird accent that's not his. It sort of sounds like not quite an American accent, but he sings the chord like he sings the word magic, like magic, like it's this weird sort of clipped thing, and then it feels, the whole song feels like there's a blanket over it, and then right at the end I was like, please God, you better play that guitar by the end of this song, because if you go through the whole song just with the guitar slung across your back, I'm going to be really irritated. But once he brings out the guitar and the sound opens up, then it's sort of like, oh, now this sounds like a proper Coldplay song. It was like it had a blanket over it, and then finally they took the blanket off, and the song could finally breathe, and then it was over.
Rich, are you a big Coldplay guy?
You know, very similar to James. I loved them in 2002. I saw them with L.A. Cash at the Greek Theater. Fantastic show. And I would say it was fun. Apparently, Saturday night they were performing at a senior prom. I don't know what that setup was, but it felt like it was a prom, or they were playing at the on an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They were playing at the bar, the Bronze. So weird kind of setup. They felt very old man-y to me. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm a lot older than Chris Martin, but I kind of felt like he was my contemporary this week.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But it was weirdly Enchantment Under the Sea, thematically and stage presence-wise. You're bang on with the prom thing.
Yeah, very, very odd. And also, I think for what you were saying, I like the scented candle idea. Very weird that we had a commercial for Coldplay's album at Target with the same exact visual as their live performance. So it definitely gave an unintentional feeling of Coldplay presented by Target, which I'm sure is not what they want these days.
Nothing says hip like presented by Target.
Exactly.
I don't think anything says hip about Coldplay at all.
It reminds me of many years ago when Bon Jovi played on the Today Show, and at the end there was a graphic that said that Bon Jovi's performance was brought to you by the incredible edible egg, and they had a little egg with a guitar. It's kind of a similar feel.
All right, let's get to the second Coldplay performance later on in the show.
So, that wasn't a rerun? That wasn't the same song just played again? Like Bird Bible? I'm sorry. All right, I'll sit this one out. Go ahead.
It was 15% faster. That's how you could tell the difference.
Oh, okay.
The second song is a sky full of stars, and it felt like the blanket was off the whole song. It was the most. It was real.
Oh, I think
realizing its full at the end, but again, it's like some sort of weird Mad Libs of just taking Coldplay-ish elements and putting them together in a way that is not actually originally a song. It was one of the weirder things that I've witnessed, and in terms of why they would come back, I think that Coldplay have their fans, and they've continued to sell records. They've actually put out several records since 2002 that I have not really listened to all that much. And they have the fan base that they have, but it just seemed very strange to come back to Saturday Night Live without exactly a new reveal of this isn't a newer, hipper version of Coldplay. And of course, there's the awkwardness that you mentioned, not last week, but last show a few weeks ago, that there are actually rumors that Chris Martin had an affair with an assistant at Saturday Night Live, and that was one of the contributing factors to the conscious uncoupling. And believe me, if you start Googling about the rumored affairs that went on in that relationship, it is an internet rabbit hole, the likes of which you will not return quickly from.
Well, now I know what I'm doing after the show.
Exactly. It goes both ways.
Hey now.
There may have been an open marriage involved. I don't know. But what he didn't find was a fountain back to the youth of rock and roll. And he's very stuck in the lifestyle brand version of this band.
Their breakup did not result in a great album. He did not Taylor Swift this relationship, that's for sure.
This is not his blood on the tracks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, James, thank you so much. Follow Exclaim Editor on Twitter, correct?
Yes.
All right, there you go. And James will be back next week. Who's the musical guest next week?
The Black Keys.
Black Keys. All right, so you're more excited for that, right?
Slightly.
Okay.
All right.
Because you're racist, James. You're racist. Because we all know those are the worst kinds of keys.
All right. James, thanks so much, buddy.
Talk to you next week.
Take care. Bye. Okay. All right, Rich. Well, let's go from Coldplay and let's talk about the weekend update. And here for the second SNL in a row, I think we have 3 update guests. We had 1 week where we had 1, and now we have 2 weeks in a row where we have 3. Okay, so let's sort of, I think we need to, a couple of these we can just sort of skim through because I think we're going to probably spend the most time on Leslie Jones. Now, we have some of our heavy hitters here. We bring back Olga POVLATSKY.
OLYA,
yeah. Who I kind of feel like we just saw, but I think I get her mentally confused with the German Prime Minister.
They're not totally dissimilar. Yeah, I love this character. I love Kate McKinnon. I could watch this, constantly. I think this is maybe the 3rd time we've seen OLYA specifically. Probably the weakest. It's getting a little, we kind of get the jokes before they happen. Liked seeing her with Cecily instead of Seth. Thought that was some good things. Couple of good lines. My favorite was when they talked about Game of Thrones, and she says, "I have HBO Go password. I am not animal." That was my favorite line. So strong, not the most memorable of this character, but a definitely good tip-off.
I did like the runner about Full House, about how the luckiest family in the world, there are only 9 people in the house.
Yes, yeah.
And I did like, at the end, that talk about Game of Thrones, like, oh, do you know who I hope dies?
Yeah.
Me. So that was good. And then we also have JEBIDAH Atkinson. He returns again for seemingly the 4th time this season. Is that a mystery?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. We just saw him March 1st on the Jim Parsons episode. I think this is number 4 for JEBIDAH Atkinson. So
which really 4 since like October. It wasn't even like until like the 5th or 6th show of the season that he made his first stop.
Exactly.
Yes.
He had the record for being back after 2 episodes or something. So again, I'd say similar for me, similar to OLYA. Always love him. Always love the performance of him. Getting a little bit sort of long in the tooth. I'm starting to really see the jokes. This was one where they really set up, I'm going to say something really nasty about my favorite play ever. It was so obviously going to be a Lincoln getting shot joke, especially considering where JEBIDAH Atkinson comes from. He was the critic of the Gettysburg Address. That was the original premise of this character. And then I think the final joke about him getting shot was, it may not have gone over well in the orchestra, but it killed in the balcony. That actually wasn't that big of a ooh kind of joke. I think they really overestimated how racy or raunchy that a joke from Lincoln's murder was going to be. So I still like it. I love the whole thing with where he accidentally said Tommy instead of Tony, and they sort of go off a little bit. It's always fun. So solid, but I pray to God we don't see him again till September.
Real B Glow says, was anyone else concerned that Taran Killam was having a stroke after he slipped up by calling the Tony Awards the Tommy Awards? Also, how amazing was his recovery from the slip-up? I feel like it's a bad sign for these JEBIDAH Atkinson sketches that the funniest moments are coming in the mistakes.
Yeah, and I also wonder, and this is very cynical to wonder, how much of it is maybe kind of planned by Taran Killam. Is he now intentionally missing so that he can come back with a big recovery? They say that Johnny Carson used to always greenlight a joke that he knew would bomb so that he could pre-plan and ad-lib when the audience turns on him. And I do wonder if, I know it's cynical, maybe Taran is kind of sort of tanking this a little bit so that he can have a save.
Yeah, just because that it's happened a couple times with this sketch where there's been something where then he gets to like break the fourth wall a little bit, and that's what really
Yes.
kills on this sketch. All right, let's go into Leslie Jones here. Now, first off, let's just set up what's going on here. And if you don't know about this, so there was this sketch or this appearance by Leslie Jones, who apparently is a writer on SNL. And she came out and sort of did a little bit of a monologue talking about how it's very hard for her to meet people, yet in the days of slavery, she would have been a hot commodity because she is a person with a lot of large in stature who's very strong, and she would have been good for breeding very strong slaves, and she would have been mated with the strongest male slaves to breed, which it's a very sinister thing to be joking about, but she did it, as a comedic piece. And I have to say that when it was on, I thought it was funny what she was saying.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was imagining the tweets being written as she was doing it. I'm like, oh boy, this is not going to go over well, largely. But it was funny. She was speaking for herself. She is a woman of color, and she's a bigger person in stature, so she wasn't making fun of other people. She was clearly making fun of herself. I thought it was original, and I would say, taking out politics for a second, good for you to come on in a really memorable way. It's like, let's talk about Brooks Wheelan's first appearance on Weekend Update. Oh, what? We don't remember it? Of course we don't remember it. It was forgettable.
His friends put butter in his pants, Rich.
No, that wasn't his first. His
oh,
first,
that wasn't?
It was him talking about his tattoos.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Remember that? And by the way, not a bad appearance, but completely unmemorable. So I think smart on Leslie Jones. I think she knew exactly what she was doing. I don't think that she's shocked by the controversy at all. I think she's acting a little surprised that there's controversy. I think she knew exactly what she was doing. She wants to be memorable. She was hired in January, back right as they were looking for the cast member that became Sashir. So, hasn't been on the show a long time. I think she really knew what she was doing. I bet this was from her act. It was way too well honed when she was doing Shaq and Kobe, and it was all really, you could tell she's a stand-up comedian, probably comes from her act. Solid piece of writing, and people will remember her. So I don't think we'll see her again in the next 2 episodes, but I think it was attention grabbing enough that we'll see her again next year.
Yeah, now, so there's been a lot of controversy, and of course this spilled over to Twitter, and a little bit shades of the Black Jeopardy from a couple of weeks ago, where people are going on Twitter, how could you say these things, and there was an article in the New York Daily News and a bunch of different places, and then she's responded to it and said, I take nothing back, I don't apologize for what I said. But I really do think that when we start getting into now talking about how we can't make jokes about this, I feel like that's the death of comedy. Once we now get the skit on the autopsy table, and now we're talking about, well, now you're making a joke about this, you're making a joke about this, you're making a joke about this. I kind of feel like you need to keep the comedy sacred here, or you have no show.
Well, it's also, yeah, I totally agree, and it's also a weird thing that Twitter starts doing, which is we don't actually know how big of an outcry there was. All we know is at least one person was annoyed by this sketch, to which Leslie Jones took the bait or intentionally leaned into to fan the flames for this to be a thing. But we don't know that the amount of tweets that were anti this rant are in any way representative of a large enough majority in a pre-Twitter day. I don't think that an Entertainment Weekly or any other, TV Guide magazine is going to be really kind of calling her out on this. I don't think any other major celebrities or black celebrities are going to call her to task for this. So I wonder if this is a little bit of the Twitter universe creating this thing that if any one person is passionate enough, they can sort of create a story.
I will say that the thing that I felt like they did a bad job of on the show was explaining who Leslie Jones is, because I'd have to go back and watch it. That they said, okay, now here to talk about you know, whatever, here's Leslie Jones. I'm like, who's Leslie Jones? What is it? Who is this Leslie Jones? And I had no idea who this person was, and I'm like, is this person a writer on the show? Is this a famous person who I don't know who she is? So I was actually very confused in the first part of that segment of who Leslie Jones actually is and why she's on Weekend Update.
Yeah, and I think that they do that. I feel like we had when John Mulaney came on a few years ago, I'm pretty sure they did not call him out as one of the writers of the show. It's an odd thing that they do, but I think that is consistent, it is definitely confusing.
Yeah. Okay, so, Rich, I know we need to pick up some time here. So let's talk about Spider-Man and the kissing between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. What'd you think about this?
I liked it more than you would think that I liked it. I thought that the performances here were good. The choices they made on how to do bad kissing I actually found to be very fun. They really committed to that, which was fun. I thought this actually could have been a really good sketch. It was odd that in the writing of the sketch they never explain why these two A-level actors don't know how to kiss. They didn't give us a goofy, dopey reason why, so we had nothing to kind of hook into for that. That said, I thought it was funny, and I gotta say, I don't know where my head was. I did not see the twist with Chris Martin coming, that he decides to kiss Andrew Garfield instead of Emma Stone. I totally worked on me. It really made me laugh that they made that choice, because Emma Stone was very funny with him. All of that was funny, and then they completely blew the ending. I thought the ending was terrible. But as a rule, I thought for this late in the game, it was good.
Yeah, I mostly agree with what you had to say. That took me out of it. I didn't understand why they couldn't kiss each other, especially because they had done a Spider-Man movie before, so I really was very confused about that. They sort of addressed that we had stunt doubles in the first Spider-Man movie. And then I did think the thing with Chris Martin was very funny. At the end, I didn't see it coming. I was like, oh man, Chris Martin's coming on here to kiss Emma Stone. I said, oh boy, he's really rubbing it in his ex-wife's face that he's back on the market. And so then I agree. The newspaper thing at the ending was pretty lame.
And I would say even more. This is a note. I know that Lauren listens to the podcast because we've seen the Rob has a podcast effect on SNL. Guys, it's
post-show recaps, Rich.
Post-show. It's all in the world. You know what? He's also a huge Amazing Race fan, so he more listens to that and then hears about this. It's 2014. If you cannot make a joke about two men going to kiss unless the two men actually kiss. If you don't got the balls to give us the payoff, don't do the setup. So the fake, weird, kissy thing that was going on between the two of them completely tanked what was a cute sketch. Will Ferrell showed us back in the day, if you're going to go for it, then go for it. We're not in 1979 where that fake man-on-man kiss gets any laughs. Nobody's laughing at that fake kiss. Come on, guys. Get with it. So you can do better.
One note on Jay Farrow here. What'd you think of Jay Farrow in this scene? Really, like, chewing up the scenery.
He was trying to make something out of nothing, and good for him. I think he got a little taste of that cold open Obama spotlight that he clearly did not have this week. But I think all in fun, he was just really trying to make something out of nothing. Made me laugh every time. Every time. Yeah.
Now, do they want you doing that, where basically you're the guy who's doing the slate and you're gonna like walk around and like make faces?
Yeah. Ridiculous. Completely uncalled for. I loved it.
Okay, let's talk about the wedding toast here for Kevin making the toast at the wedding. What did you think about this, Rich?
I gotta say, I will again say, who saw the beginning of this scene and thought it was actually going to be good? Like, this had the opening of the scene. I'm like, oh, here's a traffic accident. And that said, I really liked this sketch.
I enjoyed it.
Whoever wrote this sketch, this was the best most well-written sketch of the night to me. It wasn't the funniest. The way that it lays out, it starts with a great kind of what? He's hitting on the bride. Then we find out he's the best man. Then we find out he's the groom's cousin. Then we find out he's married. Then we find out they're their godchildren. Like, just such a well-written stack on stack. I thought Garfield was just committed. He was not bailing when the audience was not necessarily on his side there. So I thought all of that was really funny. The Keenan didn't work, and I can't tell you why. I don't think it's Keenan's fault. It always felt like he was a little off on the timing, but I thought for 12:45-ish, 12:50-ish, great sketch, really good.
The one thing that I was really left puzzled by was, so at the table with Keenan is Beck Bennett, dressed up like an old man,
Yes.
like an older man with like a mustache and like white hair, and I couldn't understand, for a guy who didn't even have a line in the sketch, why go through the trouble to put
Right.
Beck Bennett in this costume?
Who knows? So odd, so odd. Maybe it was longer and it got cut down.
I think so.
I don't know. Yeah, very odd.
That
Yeah.
he's like basically like the father of the other brother. It was just very odd that to put him in such a costume and then he had no line whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he could have just as well been a younger wedding guest. It made no sense.
Yeah, Chris in the chat room says he really enjoyed Nassim, and I will give him that. That was also from almost non-existent in the show. Her role as she did a lot with a little. I really appreciated it.
And real quick, Rich, here comes your favorite sketch. The Bird Bible is back, baby.
Oh, I mean, I will say the wing sketch that got cut was so bad that the Bird Bible was better. But I still I don't get this sketch. I mean, it's fine. But this is where this sketch should have been the first time. 12:57 a.m. That's where you put the Bird Bible. Definitely played better here than it played early in the show the last time we saw it. So, all right, very odd.
All right, real quick, a couple things before we wrap up. Real B Glow says, was Rich upset that Emma Stone broke the more than one cameo per episode rule?
No, and here's why. I have way too much free time. Because she didn't do a cameo in the second sketch, she started in the second sketch. So it wasn't a reveal that Emma Stone is in this green screen sketch. They just did a sketch with green screen. I have a lot of rules in my head, guys. I didn't know if you realized that. I've got a lot of rules. This one did not break any rules, so I was good for it.
All right, let's lead into the goodbyes, and then I have a question about the goodbyes, too.
So, goodbyes. Lindsay Shukas gets a shout-out this week. First, Wally, the cue card guy. Next, Lindsay Shukas, one of the producers on the show. Odd choice, because my understanding is she's really the head of talent and finding new cast. Maybe she's in charge of booking, too, so that was happy. The only person on the stage who was really excited and had a lot of energy from the cast was clearly Vanessa Bayer, which was so odd because she was not in the show. She was only in a pre-tape. She did nothing. She did not appear live last night except for the goodbyes, and she was bubbly and energetic, so very, very odd. Very odd. Weird energy, as I said at the top of the show. Bobby hanging out in the back. Colin Jost kind of giving Taran Killam almost a conciliatory hug, which was very odd. Weird vibe.
And Real B Glow wants to know, was Andrew Garfield saying, "Hope I return" in the sign-offs a first, Rich?
You got me on that one. I want to guess no, but I don't know. Good question.
Okay, so next week we have the, I don't know, is this a first ever or...
Return. Charlize Theron has hosted once before 14 years ago.
And does she have anything coming up?
Is she in the, you know what, that's a good question. Isn't she in the Seth MacFarlane movie, or is that Oliver Stone? Yeah, A Million Ways to Die in the West. Yeah, she's the female lead in the Seth MacFarlane movie.
Okay, there you go.
Which opens, I think, on May 30th. So the timing makes sense.
It's not opening up Friday.
No, you are right about that. Yeah, and the Black Keys, who I like, I look forward to.
Okay, Rich, do you have time for one more quick question?
Shoot, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm curious to hear Rich's thoughts on Sandberg being tapped to host in 2 weeks from Real Big Glow. We didn't talk about this. It hadn't been announced the last time we did a show. Andy Sandberg comes back. You called a alumni, but I don't think we saw Sandberg.
I did not. Huge shout out to regular Mark C from NYC, my buddy Mark. We were on the phone about 2 hours after we did the podcast, going over my predictions. He's like, Sandberg! And he knew it without a question. He knew it was going to be Sandberg. I didn't guess it. I didn't think about it. I'm not excited by an Andy Sandberg return. I'm not unexcited by it. I'm not trashing him. But as Mark said to me, and as we all were talking on Twitter this week, name one Andy Sandberg character not from a digital short that we have any interest in. Or even better, name one Andy Sandberg character not from a digital short, period. Like, he really didn't leave a big mark on the show other than the digital shorts. So I don't know what that's going to look like. I think that's going to be odd. That said, cool. I think it'll be interesting.
Okay, we'll have stuff to talk about, certainly.
Yes.
All right, so that's going to do it here for SNL Recap. We'll be back next Monday to talk about the Charlize Theron episode. Thank you guys so much who both joined us live and also listened to this in the archives. We appreciate it. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
All right.